Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Whenever you're watching this and wherever you're watching this, and do come and say hello. And obviously, thanks for people's patience. I've just watched the rerun of the original one, and obviously, I didn't turn on the microphone. So I apologize and thank you again for your patience. And I hope you will come and watch the rerun of this one. So, welcome to the live stream. Let us know where you're joining from. And if you've got any questions throughout this video, let me know in the comments. And obviously, I'm going to talk again over this topic of empowering amputees, building an identity. And I have done a previous video where I looked at going the opposite way around, where we looked at habits and behaviors, creating action, and ultimately your core beliefs and your identity at the middle of that. So with this video, I'm going to go the other way around. And how do you go about building an identity, you might ask me. And obviously, if we backtrack and give you a little bit of a story of I have not always had everything together. I lost my identity. It's almost a decade ago when I retired from sport. I was very much lost. You could put it into the words of having a purpose, your why, and things of that nature. So I had to relearn and rebuild an identity because the person that I was. This is my own fault to a certain extent because I deemed that I was entitled to be go from one arena to the next, and it'd be pretty much easy. And that wasn't the case. So I lost my way. I kind of became a former person of myself, and obviously the rest is history. But that took me almost 10 years to get to the position where I'm at today. So how do you go about building an identity? And for people watching, especially amputees, and being it very much a video that is very timely, with it being Amputee Awareness Month, especially in the US, of making recognition of people that have limb loss, who've acquired an impairment because of trauma, accidents, etc., and obviously giving awareness to people like myself who have been born with the disability, so limb different. And it might be a little bit easier for us in the community of limb difference of building an identity, because if I use myself personally, my family was very stubborn. They were in a position that I talk about, being thrown to the walls or being thrown in the deep end, and he's either gonna learn to survive, cope and survive, and thrive, and which I did, or obviously the latter is you're wrapped up in cotton wool and you can't fend for yourself. So I would obviously appreciate that argument that's brought to the table for one side of the community is a little bit easier than the others. But for the guys that are maybe in the limb loss side of the fence, they're trying to come to terms with, an identity where they possibly are maybe a little bit defeated and feel as though that they can't live up to, things that they used to be able to do and take for granted when they had two legs, all their limbs, etc. And what I want to bring to the table is that's okay. It's not necessarily you're completely defeated, because there is power in having limbs missing, or having something missing, because you're viewed as, for better or worse, a role model, somebody can be a motivation for the able body community, an inspiration for people in a similar position to you. Whether or not you want to have that or not, obviously that comes down to personal preference. I'm coming to accept that as if I'm going to be a role model, I'm quite happy to be a leader and be in a leadership role and show you the way, because that's what people do. They step up to the plate and obviously showcase what can and can't be done for other individuals and what can be you can aspire to achieve. So if we come back now and I rewind to the topic now of building an identity, and obviously this is one where I don't always agree with my coach on this point, my business coach, of cutting off the head of your past identity, because, and this is only personal opinion, this is my personal take on it, because I can still learn from an identity I had in the past of, being in high level sport in the Paralympic sense of, it still serves me. There's some aspects of it that I can leave in the past, because they just won't work in quote unquote the real world. However, for maybe the ordinary person in the street, this would be a good position to take, because if that identity is no longer serving you, it's almost like shackles. It's holding you back from what you can aspire to become. And obviously, most people will probably wouldn't want shackles and be held back by somebody else, an environmental factor, let alone themselves. So, why I say the shackles is almost like a upper limiting belief. Is it's like a concrete ceiling. You can't punch through it, no matter how hard you try. And if you do, your subconscious is going to bring you back into reality, as in, you're going to start saying things like, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve it. The list is endless. I've been there and I've said it and I've had success, and I've gone out and said, well, I can't replicate that because I don't deem that I I deserved it, or it was a fluke, it was a flash in the pan. But these are subconsciously things that are going to be very problematic to that identity, because you're reinforcing those inner beliefs, that root core of, I can't pull away from what I am and who I was, because of other external factors of, will people still like me, etc., will I be loved, and things that are quite, we are creatures of comfort, creature of habit, and we want to be liked. We want to be in a community, and we don't want to be that black sheep on the external. But you're not going to make you're not going to make progress. You're not going to make massive leaps and roads towards one, your result, one, the goals that you want to aspire to, without looking at building an identity that is cohesive with said goal, said result. So I know it's rough and it's hard, to saying, let's go and cut off this figurative snake's head, because you have that apprehension of uncertainty is scary. If I was to do this and it doesn't work out, I'm talking about self-doubt now, you're gonna revert back to that anyway. Of it is drastic, and for some people it won't work, some people it will, some people are a little bit more resolute and ruthless and kind of, well, if I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna take the massive leap of faith and jump. And obviously, hopefully, there's a bed or a nice little padded mattress down the bottom that I'm going to land on. But I've got faith that that's going to happen. So it's creating from the internal to the external of, I'm doing it with my hands. You can't actually see it, but cultivating, building that identity outwards. There are traits that you can bring, across to here that you feel that is going to inspire you, is going to motivate you, is going to be there when the grind actually happens and motivation is nowhere to be seen. Those are empowering acts. It could be type of music you listen to, it could be podcasts, it could be somebody that you look up to, it could be celebrity status to a certain extent. Whatever you need to find that initial spark. But at the end of the day, that identity has got to give you one, a purpose, gives you a why. But those are just woo-woo words. It's what is the one thing that would really get your juices flowing and then build your identity from that. Obviously for me, so people have got some context, my identity now is built on serving the amputee community. So for me, that is my why. It's massive because I don't know how many people I can affect on a daily basis, but it's a chain of reaction, almost like an earthquake. That initial shock is, and it builds out. So I could initially help one person that has a knock-on effect to 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. I'll never see those 1,000 people or the tens of thousands at the periphery, but I've had a knock-on effect on their lives as well. So my identity now is built on and helping serving others. So it gives me a massive buzz to be able to give people an awareness to their problem, give them advisory solutions, because ultimately I want you guys to come up with your answers and problem solve, and you be resolute with the answer. Because if you're confident with your outcome, hey, you can obviously come back to me for guidance. But in your heart, I think that's going to work, and you believe in it, and obviously you're gonna achieve. So it's building out from those core beliefs. I haven't said the how, but the why is if they're not serving you, you're not able to rise to the occasion. You're not able to soar to your full potential of what you want to achieve because that identity is holding you back. And you will make up no words of excuse, which is obviously non-action, because that is holding you back to be comfortable. So you can't actually reach the external of changing your behaviors or habits. You can momentarily, but if you want to make monumental and massive progress, you've got to go back and look at your core beliefs. They might not necessarily be yours, but they've become your core beliefs based on, generally speaking, something negatively that you have said, people have said in the past, and then you have absorbed it so much in repetition that it's become you. So you can't escape it, because you feel, if I leave it, I'm stepping it out into the unknown, and I won't be able to, quote unquote, survive. But you've already done that anyway. You're here. You've got a missing limb, missing 2 limbs, leg, arms. For the quads, obviously, all the limbs. But you have a choice. Do you want to be defeated, or do you want to feel empowered? Those are 2 choices. It's almost like a yes or no. I know for the majority, we want to be empowered. but it's looking at your circumstances as this is something that I can show that I've overcome, and it's an empowerment tool as well. But that all starts with obviously building your identity, accepting who you are. This aspects of maybe you want to bring from when you're able bodied to where you are now. Hey, if it's going to promote and make you a stronger individual, do it. If it's not, maybe leave it in the past. But it's looking really ruthlessly in that nature to whatever's going to get you to ascend to that next level. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments. YouTube obviously below, and Facebook, depending on what platform, it will be below or to wherever the box is related to the screen. So thanks again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
To introduce to you